Why We Buy by Paco Underhill. From refrigerators to pints of milk, people have long gone shopping for their necessities. However, the study of actual customer behavior has only lately started to be done by researchers and businesses. It turns out that these findings are quite important for store owners. Why We Buy argues that it's important to comprehend what consumers do and act like when they're inside stores. Retailers must be aware of these habits if they want to increase sales. For instance, all consumers have a tendency to gaze to the right rather than the left. The demands of various shoppers, including the young and the aged, must also be considered at the same time. All of these facts will be kept in mind by savvy merchants when they plan their store, arrange their merchandise, and instruct their personnel. However, businesses must make buying more than a task, rather, it should be an experience, both tactile and emotional, in order to truly create an impact on browsing shoppers and convert even more of them into genuine paying customers. Of course, even if you don't work in retail yourself, Why We Buy is still an interesting read, not least because it demonstrates how businesses may influence your shopping behavior to increase your likelihood of purchasing items, particularly ones you don't actually need. Nowadays, whether you are online or offline, you can see opportunities to make purchases everywhere you go. However, at the same time, people are less inclined to make a purchase simply because they have made up their minds that they need something or because they saw an advertisement for it on their way to work. Instead, more and more purchases are being done inside of stores. This is due to the fact that consumers might be persuaded to make impulsive purchases inside of a store, items they suddenly decide they might need. Therefore, the first step for a store owner is to draw customers inside. You must figure up a strategy to persuade these casual customers to make purchases because not everyone who enters will. This conversion rate is influenced by a variety of variables. Create an atmosphere in your store where customers want to linger, for instance, and you'll increase the likelihood that they'll make a purchase. On the other hand, some characteristics, like having long lines, can hinder your conversion rate. By focusing on elements like store design, product layout, and personnel activities, we can learn how to enhance conversion rates by studying how consumers buy. One newsstand owner, for instance, spent some time observing his clients and discovered that the majority of them were Korean. Having gained this knowledge, the proprietor loaded up on Korean periodicals, which considerably enhanced his sales. Prior to now, research on shopper behavior has been somewhat underutilized. Retailers can learn how to enhance businesses and maximize the conversion of shoppers into customers, but they can only do this by watching the purchasing habits of actual customers. It goes without saying that business owners want their consumers to enjoy and feel comfortable while shopping. This means that when constructing a store, consideration must be given to the physical constraints and purchasing behaviors of customers. First and foremost, customers must be able to carry the items they wish to buy, so shopping baskets, bags, or other similar containers should be placed conveniently for customers to use throughout the store. These should be stacked so that customers may pick one up without bending over. The larger the basket, bag, or cart, the better, since consumers want to purchase as many items as they can. In fact, studies have shown that larger shopping carts encourage consumers to make more purchases. The flow of customers through a business and how it should influence the positioning of your products is another important factor to take into account. For instance, customers tend to walk forward rather than backward in stores. They won't likely go back to places they have already been. At the same time, customers have a tendency to gravitate toward the right, preferring to walk in that direction and reach for merchandise there. This implies that any items the store is actually interested in selling or even just presenting to customers should be placed there. It is simple to make shops more comfortable for customers by paying attention to such fundamental human needs and tendencies. Sales are thus likely to rise as a result, as satisfied and easygoing customers are far more likely to browse stores for a while before making a purchase. Typically, customers are not prepared to begin making purchases as soon as they enter a business. Instead, consumers must be given a location that enables them to appropriately arrive at the business because they first need to transfer into shopping mode. Because they are not yet prepared to think about recommendations for what to buy when entering, they will likely miss any exceptional offers that are posted close to the entry. Similarly, salespeople who approach individuals at a store's entrance are actually more likely to scare them away than to entice them in. Because of this, stores must create a decompression zone that slows down customers and enables them to move from outside to within the store. A zone like this can be created immediately outside the entryway, and to make it stand out, features like lighting and textured floors can be used. Once people are inside, they need to be shown where to go and where to focus their attention. Posting signs helps to do this. The natural behavior and thought processes of individuals must be taken into account while placing signage. signs must be positioned, for instance, to obstruct customers' natural lines of sight. Additionally, the cognitive processes of consumers must be considered. For instance, customers are probably thinking about their cars when they are near a shelf of engine oil. A wise business would therefore post a notice there urging customers to buy replacement windshield wipers as well. The environment heavily influences how much information can be displayed on a sign. For instance, when waiting in line at a fast food restaurant, customers are generally not going to read the menu all the way through. However, customers frequently pay close attention to the menu board as they wait for their food. The menu can therefore include a lot of information, but it should be designed to offer recommendations for the customer's subsequent visit. Retailers must comprehend and adjust to common human qualities and habits, as has already been demonstrated. However, it's also crucial to take into account the behavioral variations among different shopper demographics, particularly those between men and women. Smart businesses must recognize that men and women play very diverse societal roles, which are reflected in variances in shopping behavior. For instance, women typically browse a store longer and are more likely to make larger purchases. However, men are more inclined to make impulsive purchases. Additionally, when it comes to product display, retailers must take the gender of the possible customer into account. For instance, guys typically purchase lawn equipment. As a result, lawn mowers on display at a store will likely place more emphasis on the engine's power than, say, the mower's colors. In general, stores should work to make both men and women's shopping experiences as comfortable as feasible. An illustration would be placing a clothing store adjacent to a computer store, where males are more likely to spend a lot of time shopping than women are. In this way, couples doing their shopping will be content to linger. Additionally, stores must be willing to adapt in order to accommodate for the shifting societal roles of men and women. For instance, since neither men nor women purchase the majority of products anymore, both sexes must find the products appealing and usable. One approach would be, for instance, to employ female sales representatives to market things that are typically associated with men, such as computers. Additionally, if products are only labeled as male or female, customers who identify as homosexual can feel like they have to out themselves each time they purchase those products. The disparities between different customer groups are continuously shifting, and astute retailers will keep a close eye on them and adjust as necessary. Retailers and product designers must also take age into account in addition to gender. For instance, it is necessary to address the needs of the growing number of senior customers. The elderly will make up a significant portion of the population in the future, and since they will have experienced economic prosperity, they will likely be more likely to spend money. How therefore can product designers consider the requirements of the elderly? First and foremost, items need to be made accessible to elder users. For instance, the fonts need to be bigger so those with impaired vision can read them. Because they are of particular importance to the elderly, ingredient lists and nutritional labels in particular will need to be printed in much larger letters. Additionally, technical products must be made more accessible for the elderly and must longer be primarily marketed to young people. Similar to this, senior-friendly retail environments are necessary. This calls for personnel to include senior salespeople who can relate to the elderly, in addition to being physically accessible to, say, those using wheelchairs. The requirements of the elderly are now not given enough consideration when designing products in stores. This must alter since the elderly will make up a larger and larger percentage of the population. Children frequently join their parents when they shop, which has a significant impact on how parents buy. In what ways does this affect retailers? First and foremost, for parents to feel comfortable bringing their kids into a store, it must be kid-friendly, which means safe and user-friendly. This implies that any hazardous items, such electrical sockets, must be kept out of the reach of children, and any heavy items must be secured so they cannot fall, as children prefer to touch and engage with their environment. The businesses must also be reachable for parents of young children. Avoid stairs if feasible, and check that the doors are automated and the aisles are broad. Second, retailers must take into account the fact that kids demand their parents' complete attention, which makes it more challenging to close a sale. Therefore, it makes sense for retailers to offer kid-friendly distractions, such as designated play spaces, to allow parents to shop without interruption. Finally, retailers need to recognize that kids have a say in what their parents buy. This means that items should be placed so that kids will find them appealing and can take them off the shelf without difficulty. This shouldn't be done excessively, though, as parents will be leery of things that look blatantly designed to manipulate kids. As was previously mentioned, a welcoming and functional shopping atmosphere is a requirement for any customers to enter a store. But for retailers to succeed, they must go beyond this fundamental level. It's critical to realize that shopping is an experience rather than merely a way to purchase things. Customers must be permitted to handle and test out potential purchases. To involve customers with their products, numerous stores today tempt them to try them out. Presenting things so people can see them in use is one approach to do this. This can entail, for instance, putting furniture on show as a component of a completely furnished room. Finding techniques to appeal to more of the customer's senses adds another level to the buying experience. Today, many stores use background scents as well as background music to enhance the shopping experience. It's crucial to remember that buying must always be enjoyable. Retailers must make sure that customers are having fun, which means they are happy to spend a lot of time in the store, but they are not required to. This means that items must be stocked in stores so that customers who are pressed for time can easily select the desired item. Additionally, waiting and line times need to be kept to a minimum, particularly at the pay register, where customers need to go through this stage as soon as possible because this is where the shopping experience translates into actual sales. The internet has significantly altered how we live now during the past 10 years. Naturally, technology has also affected how people shop. Online shopping has grown significantly in popularity, but there are still some issues that online retailers have not been able to resolve. For instance, getting customer help when users run into issues with a product is still challenging. Customers can speak with sales clerks directly at brick and mortar stores, but it might be confusing to determine who to contact with an online business. However, online services and the internet can be useful for brick and mortar companies. In reality, it's more likely that physical and mortar retailers will converge with the internet than that they will disappear in the future. The fact that Apple devices no longer have instruction manuals and instead provide customers with an internet link to the information is one illustration of this trend. Another illustration is the fact that mobile internet technology already makes it possible for customers in Japan and the Philippines to pay for goods using their cell phones instead of exchanging cash. As a result of this evolution, stores will shrink and become more environmentally friendly because they will serve as distribution centers and only stock items that customers have previously ordered online. The main takeaway from this book is that retailers need to make shopping more enjoyable and pleasant than just a means of making sales. Retailers must closely monitor customer behavior in order to make adjustments. At its most fundamental, this entails taking into account the variations between various customer groups as well as fundamental human physical and mental characteristics. Practical suggestions from the book: there are several things store owners may do to enhance their customers' shopping experiences and, consequently, their profits. Keep track of who your actual customers are. Do women outnumber males in number? Do more children exist? Exist foreigners, of a certain nationality, here? Respond to your customers. Why not provide signs in their native tongue if a certain nationality frequents your store? If there is a line at the cashier and you are powerless to stop it, have a helpful salesperson apologize to the individuals in line. He or she could be able to address any additional queries that customers may have on the items they intend to purchase. Avoid setting up objects too neatly to avoid giving customers the impression that they are in a museum and shouldn't touch the items. On the other hand, you shouldn't leave your merchandise in a disorganized stack either. Thanks for watching.